Hello, my friends, our viewers, and our supporters. Again, I say welcome to another edition of our Legacy series, an archive of those who we recognize as making invaluable contribution to our diaspora and to our community, both here and abroad. This afternoon, of course, we again bring you one of our individuals, special gem, a diamond, who we recognize also has made a significant effort to serve our community and to be an example for those of us who might feel overlooked, that we sometimes have people who represents them. And so again, I say thank you for tuning in, thank you for sharing, and thank you for the exciting comments and that we get and the feedback we get from you on a consistent basis. So again, I say welcome to the SosoBone Media Network. Welcome to the Legacy series. And let me turn you over to our anchor for this platform, none other than Secretary to the First World Cricket Hall of Fame, the Honorable Dale Brown. Over to you, Brother Brown.
Thank you, Sir Professor, and greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Diaspora and Legacy series. This series, as the Professor pointed out, highlights individuals and nonprofit organizations that create opportunities for youths and community development across the Caribbean. Today's guest is an extraordinarily gifted individual who has selflessly supported many initiatives and impacted the lives of youth and young people and communities, especially in the county of Cornwall, Western Jamaica. He's a doctor by profession, and he exemplifies what it means to be a quiet, humble individual with providing great service to humanity, particularly people in Jamaica, whether in the hospitals where he works, whether lecturing, and whether in the schools or the wider community. Join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Lincoln Cox. Dr. Cox, welcome to our program, sir.
Thank you very much, Dale. I'd like to thank the network and this group for allowing such exposure, as you say, and for those of us who are buried with work sometimes to talk about some of the things that we do. Because certainly we don't seek the cameras to do it. We just work as we see it fit to help our community.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Cox. And before we get into the nitty-gritty of it, we just like to, people to know a little bit more about you. So we'll just go through, a few warm-up questions. If you could tell us where you grew up and how did your parents influence the path that you're on today?
Hey, I'm a typical I'm a typical Jamaican from the poorer class, basically. My father was a factory worker. He worked for many years at KIG and J. Neville in Kingston. My father being from the country, from Westmoreland, in a small community in Retrieve, on the board of Westmoreland and St. James, actually. My mother was a government worker, and I spent most of my years from age of 4 in the countryside, in Retrieve, in Westmoreland. From a poor class community, we're saddled by family disruptions and divorce and those kind of things. And so we ended up in the country, three of us, three kids with my father. And my father, I should say, is a very hard worker and a dreamer and a person that thinks big. My father, incidentally, spent most of his time, apart from working on the factory floor, he's also a pastor in the Pentecostal church. And it is through the church and the morals of the church that we survived the rigors of the countryside. And my father's dream of being a single father, having his kids, in other words, turn out to be something. He has always said that whatever he does, he's going to ensure that we pass the worst. And in that community, we three of us kids went to Cambridge Primary School. Cambridge Primary School is in St. James, but it's very close to the community of Retrieve in Westmoreland. And in those days, we had to walk to school. I didn't know what it was to take a bus. We didn't have taxis at the time. We had these huge buses in the countryside that for most part, the primary school being 2 miles away. We just walked to school. And we didn't see it as anything. We didn't see it as a struggle. We saw it as fun. Because we could walk to school and pick plums and pick apples and pick oranges and on our way to school and be back. And the truth is that most of the times we used to run to school and run back. And we didn't know what the benefits of those were that was, but we were actually training at the time to keeping fit and being healthy. So from Cambridge Primary School to passing my common entrance exams. At that time, we only had the traditional high schools in Jamaica. I remember the common entrance exams was one where 40,000 kids would take the exam every year. And I remember quite clear that only 10,000 would pass for traditional high schools. The rest of the kids would find themselves in what we call secondary schools at the time. And so my father drove the fear in us that you need to pass the common entrance exam because that's the only way you're going to make it in this life. And we took him on at the time. And, what we had to do in terms of getting through our mental ability, English and mathematics in the common entrance exams, and we passed it. And at the time, it was Cornwall College that most people wanted to go to from in the Western region. If you aspire to be anything great, then you must think Cornwall College. I mean, there are other schools, Herbert Morrison, to choose from, but I don't think we had many more choices in Montego Bay. And certainly we didn't have any choices in Westmoreland or we're closer to where we were in Westmoreland or in other parts of St. James or in St. Elizabeth, because Monroe was very far away and the Manning School was also far away. So it was Cornwall College or Herbert Morrison. I took the common entrance exams and passed for Cornwall College in 1984. And when I passed my common entrance exams at Cornwall College, it was like a celebration within the community because they didn't know that could happen in my community. I was the first kid in my community to pass the common entrance exams for Cornwall College as far as I know. Might be wrong, but as far as they could tell me, as the only one. So first one I should say. My brother did pass for Cornwall 2 years later, but I was the first one when I passed my common entrance at that time. And this was fascinating, and to me, even now, I mean, just gonna fast forward a little bit because I have a private practice in Cambridge that I'm not a practicing GP, I'm a general surgeon. But I do it from the words of my father that said that if you become whatever you become, you need to go back to your community and help that community. And I did return many years ago now and set up a private practice in Cambridge, very close to my primary school, the primary school I went to. And the beauty about that is that I'm now my primary school teachers are now my patients. It's fun. It's fun because they're now in their 70s and so on, and some of them in their maybe in the 80s, and they're my patients. And one of them asked me, we were talking the other day with Miss Grant, and she said, I was saying to her that, Miss Grant, I still remember the greatest moment in my life, I think. That moment was a moment, the day I got up very early on the results of the common entrance exams and found out in the morning by going to her house, because the cleaner was not something that you could get that easily. Worse, around common entrance time, it went like hot bread. And I went to her house and we found out that, well, I found out I passed the common entrance exam for Cornwall College. And I think it was at the time, was 11 of us from my primary school that passed the common entrance. And it was one of those unfortunate things at those times that people had failed. But there were more failures than passes, as you recognize, because we had to have like 50-something students doing the exam from my primary school, and perhaps only 11 of us will pass. Mm-hmm. And 11 of us passed at the time for Cornwall College, the girls from Mount Alvernia. There was one boy that passed for Herbert Morrison. But I think 3 of us at the time passed for Cornwall College. 3 boys passed for Cornwall College and 1 boy for Herbert Morrison. And still, I think that is still the greatest moment in my life. There are many great moments, but I think that was a turning point. Maybe the turning point of a great moment in my life, and I still cherish it. And when I go to Cambridge and I see 5, 6, 7 patients, and they are my former primary school teachers, then it's worth everything to me.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cox. You mentioned Miss Grant, but do you have any other? You said of several of them. Could you name them? Because I'm sure they would love to hear their names called if they see.
Miss Grant, Miss Cook was my grade 6 teacher. Mr. Lawrence, Mr. Parkinson. I think he's now the late Mr. Parkinson. Those are the ones that. Oh, Miss Anderson, I can remember, and Miss McIntyre. If I ever find Miss McIntyre, because right now she is the busiest, the youngest person I've ever seen in her post-retirement days, and she's still there activated. Every time, if I don't get call me all the time, but wait, Miss Cook, Miss McIntyre, Mr. Grant, Miss Grant, Miss Anderson, Mr. Lawrence. Those are almost all my teachers that I had that are still alive and well in Cambridge post my primary school years.
Okay, so you mentioned that you attended Cornwall. What's one of the biggest takeaways from attending Cornwall, the school of your dreams, so to speak?
For me, it is it's just the grandioseness of the institution of Cornwall. And I would say that when I was about to leave Cornwall, I didn't want to leave. And I said to my colleagues and so on that if Cornwall had a university and all they did was Greek mythology, that's what I would do. Because Cornwall has, in a way, molded so many and so molded me from a country boy at the time, not know with dreams, but don't know what to do with them. And took those dreams and made them into reality for me. To going from being at Cornwall College. And Cornwall College is not about them in the 7 years that you're there in the moment. It's that grandiose history, legacy that comes with Cornwall College. Because when you go to Cornwall and well, first of all, most of the reason why you go to Cornwall because you hear of the greatness of the school. And I can remember when I went into when I was doing my orientation in grade 7, and you heard about Mr. Stokes, and you don't know this man. And because you're from primary school, but you don't know this man. And when you hear of Mr. Stokes, you almost like it command this authority, this discipline. And I remember 250 boys at orientation who would not have known Mr. Stokes. I did not know him. And we were in the Cornwall College auditorium, and boys always are chattering and so on. And there's a moment, almost like the slip of a finger, there was a deafening silence. And I was wondering what's going on. And at that time, you just silent as well. It's quiet. It was silent, and it was Mr. Stokes walking. Came into the room. And I was wondering, how comes everybody over this thing? But then if somebody whispered, Mr. Stokes, then the room was dead quiet. And that was the command of a principal and of a school, of this institution that you look up to with reverence, that when you get there, even as a boy at 11, because I went to college at 11 years old. 11 years old, you knew that institution command this kind of a respect, and you humble yourself. And I was from a humble background, so humbling myself was an easy thing, come by very naturally. That I just humbled and listened and learned. And of course, they say, after a long time, then they say, boy, the humble calf suck the most milk. So Carlos molded me into my mind, into aspiring for great things beyond what I could even dream of. And that's what it did during my 7 years at Cornwall College. Because with very little means, Cornwall was more than just even aspiring, but Cornwall was like a mother. Because where I traveled from to school, where from Retrieve to Cornwall College was about 25 miles. And I had to take the bus there. And my father, with limited means, would sometimes not have the financial backing, or even the bus fare. And I've said so many times that going to school every day wasn't that whether I'm going or I am going, whether I have money or not. And God bless my stepmom, Jean Burnett, because she did so much for us with so little. We were from a community with no running water. We didn't have light. But funny, it was the most beautiful thing because we live in the natural environment. We know about rivers, the going up and down hills and valleys. We know about agriculture and planting stuff. We knew so much basic things that I think most people would have missed out on the natural beauty of the environment through going to the river and fishing and bathing and coming back. We at some point thought it was difficult, I can tell you. But because when you had to come home and light a lamp that says home sweet home on the shade and you had to clean it and so on. But then if you had that zeal to read, I remember going to Cornwall, and I had a lamp light, but I could do my homework. I did my homework and it was in. And I'm just, and there are boys, not to knock anyone, but there are boys who would not turn up with their homework. I mean, and I understand now that the level of distraction was different because in the countryside, I was at peace of mind wasn't distracted and focused. And my father encouraged us. He implored us all the time to do always read and try and do well. So going to Corn when I get up in the morning, I did not have to have a bus fare to go, because I was saying my stepmom sometimes she would say that we have no money today, so you can't go to school. And she would say, and I'd put on, and she knows, she would know that I'd put my clothes on same way. And she said, but I told you I don't have any money. And I said, and I didn't say anything. But there's one bus that runs from the late bus well, not the late bus, but one of the major, well, the only bus actually, biggest bus that run from where I live to Montego Bay. And I could see it when it's coming, and it always honk the horn and so on. And even when there's no money, once that bus, I see the bus, I just take off, running down the road, and I get on it. And the conductor, who is Billy would come, and sometimes when Billy come and I say, Billy, I don't have any money. And I said, Billy, I'll pay you tomorrow or next week. Now, I only understand that now by looking back to realize that Cornwall College commanded a respect that did not even allow the conductor to disrespect you or saying, this is don't come on the bus, my bus without bus fare. Because they revered the people who went to these traditional high schools so much. And when you're from Cornwall College and have the epaulet on, they know that there's a certain amount of sincerity that comes in what you say, genuineness, and respect. They look on you and they respect you. Cornwall College, that's a respect. You don't have any bus fare? No. They're not going to say no problem, but they're not going to trouble you at all. They're going to say, you say next week, fine. You say tomorrow, I believe you. You're a bright kid. You are going to Cornwall College. I believe that. And I did not know, because even sometimes when I go on the bus, I'm waiting for perhaps a horrible response from the conductor. Never came. Never came. And I've been many times and said, Billy, I don't have any bus fare today. Tomorrow, I'll pay next week. And he'll just say, okay. And it's only long after I realized now that it's not because of me. The only reason why I got such respect is because I was going to Cornwall College. Because if you listen to the interaction between the conductor now and other people, other students that went to other places, it is different. It's completely different. And it's only after a while I said, but hold on. This is really because you go to Cornwall College. And I didn't know until after a long time. But even still, when I graduated, I went and I found Billy many times. And I said, Billy, boy, I don't know how to thank you. And I remember Billy one day was asking me for a favor. And I said to him, Billy, you don't have to ask me. I said, if you want 1,000 favors, Billy. Once it is within my capacity to give it to you, no problem. Because if said to him, Billy, if one day you had said to me, you say you can't go back on my bus, I don't know how that to be. I don't know. But I'm just saying that this is what Cornwall College did for me, and I just think that the fellowship that we have at Cornwall with the old boys and the ability of old boys to help, and the institution itself, and I'm sure it is a similar thing with other schools that foster and take care of the most challenged, or the boys who find themselves in a struggling position. Because many times I used to go to school and I don't have lunch money. Many times. And through the guidance counselors program and some mammoth people at Cornwall like Mr. De Bruyne. I remember being taught by Mr. De Bruyne, and I don't remember how Mr. De Bruyne and I became close, because I was just sitting under the tree sometimes reading in the evenings, and he would come and say, what are you doing here, silly? And I said, sure, I'm just trying to do some math. And he said, and then we have a conversation, because Mr. De Bruyne lived at the boarding house for many years, and he was genuinely interested in boys who would take an interest in their work. And so everything about that boy he would know. So Mr. Dibri knew about me because I was a trying student and I was involved in track and field at Cornell as well. And he knew that coming from very far in the country, you find that Mr. De Bruyne would sometimes come to me and he would say, he has this way of saying, "Are you okay to go home now, silly? Are you are you safe to go home?" Or he would say something like that. And then maybe I would say, "Yes, sir." I would say, or I'd say, "No, sir, I don't have any bus fare today." And he would say, "Follow me." And he would pay my bus fare or something. But it's just through those kind of help. And it escalated all the way to university. I even this week there was an issue with two medical students. One made it to the news, where they found it difficult to pay tuition fees in their first year, and they highlighted it on TVJ News. And I was in theater operating yesterday, and I was talking about it, and I said to them, we were arguing about, I mean, what should a student get into university, get their acceptance letter, don't have the money to pay? What should that student do? Is it irresponsible to join, to start the program knowing that you don't have the financial backing? Is it more prudent to wait until you know you're financially safe? But many people don't have the time, or have the where they don't have that, I would say, that time to wait. They don't know, no matter how long they may wait, they're still not going to be able to achieve, or to find the 5 million or the 2 million or the 1 million to pay the tuition fee at university. And I'm gonna say one thing. If it's just one thing, there's a vice principal at university of the West Indies at the time when I was doing medicine, Mr. Joe Pereira. I don't know, I did not know Joe Pereira. I did not. His name is Joseph Pereira. Joseph Pereira was the dean of the Faculty of Arts. I did not know him. I did not know him. I was in medical school. I was living on Chancellor Hall, and I did not know Joe Pereira. Well, I was a struggling medical student. And I got a message under my door to come see Joe Pereira, the Dean of Arts. And I even took up the message and said, "Guys, this they may have had the wrong door, because I'm not in arts. I'm in medicine." And then something said to me, "Go see Joe Pereira. It says specifically Lincoln Cops, see Joe Pereira." And I said, "All right, okay, let me see Joe Pereira." So I went down there, and I could swear that this was a mistake, because I wasn't in arts. And as I went into to his office, he says, "Are you a Cornell College old boy?" I said, "Yes." And he just said to me, "Do you want a scholarship?" I thought it was a joke. I said, "Yes, sir." And I was laughing because I couldn't believe it, that he was saying, "Do you want a scholarship?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Okay, well, sign this paper up." But I'm saying this to say that when you go to Cornell College, and I can tell you also, if you go to other schools, it's a similar thing. Joseph Pereira was the vice principal at a university, eventually was the principal, the dean of the Faculty of Arts, Cornell College old boy, who did not forget that he went to college. He looked out for Cornell College old boys. Whether it be on hall, medicine, he just wanted to know, this boy went to Cornwall. Did he pay his hall fees? No. Then he's in trouble. Let's call him and let's say we can help him. And these guys are quiet. There's nobody as quiet as Joe Perry. He's a quiet giant. There's nobody as quiet. He eventually came to my wedding and so on, and he just came and sat like he wasn't even there. But this is what Cornell College did. I mean, for me, from letting you know that there's a certain amount of but that cannot command a certain amount of respect. That cannot command a certain amount of there's a quiet power to the school. The legacy behind the school let you realize that as a Cornwallian, I have a lot to live up to. I have a lot to give account for without even knowing it. You know. Because as an 11-year-old who did not know who Mr. Stokes was, to listen to the deafening silence in the auditorium when the man walked into the room, to the point where I'm at university struggling and there is somebody in the quiet wings waiting to say, I'm here to guide. And I didn't know those things. I did not know about that institution. I did not know the power of Cornwall College. And then when it revealed unto you like that, you realize that you also have a mission also to accomplish by trying to help. Not only Cornwall, but wherever your community and in your community that you are.
Yes, Professor, you have heard a bit. Do you have a question for Dr. Cox?
Brother Dale, this story is so sweet, But I'm listening and I'm just saying, I have talked about my past, that when I passed my scholarship in Clarkstown, Trelawney, I was supposed to go to Cornwall College. And because of the fact that my aunt and uncle were not really there permanently, they kicked me back to Titchfield. And every time I talk to this Cornwall College old boys, it reminds me that I was supposed in the western part of the country. Cornwall College was the schools that were part under our umbrella. But Retrieve, I can't understand how the man talks so long about Retrieve and never mentioned Mango one time.
Oh yeah, that's a Mongo. That was like a Mongo walk.
That is my point, Brother Deal.
I get you.
Yeah, there's some mangoes that come from there that even sometimes don't even know that they I mean, apart from being there's so many people I always tell about rusty mango or number 11 or sweetie mango and so on. They don't know them.
Well, that's my point, Brother Deal, because every time I get about Retrievers mango, we used to hear about.
Yeah, we had a lot of mangoes there. It was wonderful. I mean, in my entire time, we could spend the entire summer just roaming through the bushes and eating mangoes and cane and river and so on for the whole summer, the entire summer.
Right. Yeah. Well, Dr. Cox, we're gonna move on to a little bit more about you in your adulthood now. And I know you happened to meet Dr. Warren Blake. And
Right.
could you share with us under what circumstances you met him, and then his impact on your life after that?
Yeah, I mean, I was a resident. I was doing my residency at University Hospital of the West Indies. My residency had started in 2006. And by the time it got to 2010, I was a senior resident in the Department of General Surgery. All through my years, I used to follow I'm a sports enthusiast, and I'm one of those sport involving sports medicine from I was a medical student. I remember the 2002 World Junior Athletics Championships in Kingston, where as a student, the University of the West Indies Medical Students Association was so robust in the response, to helping the medical team and guiding and helping athletes that were a part of the championships. And because it was so huge, because a lot of the athletes were staying on the university campus at the time. And as students, we were tasked with just reporting and monitoring and reporting any significant concerns that the athletes had. But in 2010, we had a tragedy because we had this huge earthquake that affected Haiti. And I remember being in the intensive care unit doing a ward round in surgery the evening, and heard the news bulletin that said that today or tonight, Haiti is in darkness. There was no communication because they had just had a massive earthquake there. We knew that we felt the earthquake in Kingston as a tremor because we are on that same fault line with Haiti. And I remember saying by late afternoon, I said to my team, I said, guys, whatever help Haiti needed, I'm ready. And we end up, in another week, I was in Haiti. I was in Haiti with the Ministry of Health, Dr. Dukas and team. I mean, I saw her again after a long time, after the Melissa happened, and Dr. Bullock Dukas came to Savlamar and was as part of the POW team, I know, and was assessing. But I remember that she was the lead in organizing the medics, nurses, doctors, surgeons from Jamaica and get them into Haiti. Now, when we went to Haiti, Haiti was devastated with just so many people had lost their lives and died, and then there were so many people now with broken bones and all sorts of problems there. And it came down to working now on fractures and amputations, a lot of amputation. That's how I met Dr. Blake. I knew Dr. Blake as a personality that I would hear at the J3s. Dr. Warren Blake, you hear him all the time. But then I met him there. And he was a senior consultant for orthopedic surgery. And I knew that. And then while doing a lot of phalangeal pinning in Haiti, I used to wire back people's phalanges, the bones in the fingers. And while doing some amputations there, I met him. But I had some problems straightening out some of the phalanges that were very, very severely fractured, or comminuted fractures there. And I remember going to Dr. Blake and said, Dr. Blake, you need to help me with this one because I can't get this thing straight. And he would take me to there's a hospital that had a rudimentary had an X-ray, a functioning X-ray unit. It was a Bernard Nave hospital that had it. And we went there, keep working in and out and trying to get these fractures straight and doing a number of amputations. And what the majority, a lot of what we did there was even security. We had to be very careful about how we walk in Haiti because there was a lot of what they call violent people out there, just needed because of the loss of their scarce resources, and they would just target people. Well, I met Dr. Blake in Haiti during the earthquake, and we worked for 2 long weeks there. And when I came back to Jamaica, as I said, I was a senior resident in surgery at the time, and he called me up. He said, Cox, he said, his exact words to me was that, you speak Spanish? And I said, no. I said, no. I mean, apart from Spanish, I got a 2 in Spanish. He said, all right, we wanted to go down to the NACAC event in Puerto Rico. I said, okay, no problem. I'll just try and get the time from a consultant. And then he called me back again and said, you know what, forget Puerto Rico. We're going to try and get you to why don't you go with the team to the World Junior Championships in Moncton, Canada in 2010. And I said, okay, yeah. So that's how I was introduced through the Haiti disaster and meeting Dr. Blake down there, where we worked and slept on gurneys for 2 weeks. And it was really almost like a soldier camp there. And just coming back, and he asked me to help trip going to Moncton. But it didn't stop there because I now end up being Dr. Blake's assistant for his orthopedic surgeries. for many a months in Kingston. He'd call me and say, Cox, we have a spinal surgery. Can you come and help me? Cox, we have a broken Cox, and I would help him all the time. So we developed a very close relationship up to now. This year I went to Poland for the World Indoors, and again it was Dr. Blake who called me. But it's sometimes a lot we don't understand sometimes the connections when it happened. Like you go to an event and some people say, okay, why the cops went to that event and why not me? But until you explain to them that I have Dr. Blake and I was in a disaster zone. It's the worst zone you could ever be in. When you talk about the stench of bodies and flies, and we lived and we worked there for 2 weeks, and we shared emotions like crazy, potato limbs, trying to just to talk to people, trying to motivate them. It is 2 weeks may seem like a short time, but in a disaster zone where there are thousands of dead bodies and a rubble around you, it's an eternity. And when sometimes if I say to Dr. Blake, boy, they wouldn't understand, you would say, yeah, they wouldn't. Because somebody just need to drop you in downtown somewhere where there are 10 dead bodies, and you'll find out how long that is for a minute. But since we are in that environment for 2 long weeks, it's hot, it's smelly, it's flies. When I tell people that I went into a makeshift tent that they had a tent city, and you go into a tent and there's there are thousands of flies in there. They would say I'm not talking the truth, but it's true. That's the amount of flies in there. And you have to fan them, and thank God at the time I had a very good spirit, and I was very fit and everything, and I was up to the task. But the ministry knew that anything longer than 2 weeks would drive you crazy. And so they try to pull us out before. And the ministry would look for telltale signs of depression early, even after 2 days. If you look like you're depressed, they're going to say, oh, you need to get out of here. And we had many, many doctors that went to Haiti that unfortunately came back, suffering from the effects of post-traumatic stress as a result. But that was where the relationship was garnered, what was made with the J-Trays and exists. I'd said from 2002 at the World Juniors and until today that the guys would know still London Watts, Guard Gale, they would still have me on their elite medical panel for whatever international meets there will be. And it's I think it's grounded in that experience, and it even went over to the Jamaica Olympic Association. It's a Samuda understand the relationship, and you understand. And I'm also a significant part of the Jamaica Olympic Association, because I was the team lead to the 2021 Olympics in Japan at the time. And even long before that, I've fostered this relationship with the Olympic Association by going to the Paralympic meets. I've been to a number of Paralympic meets, and people also wonder how comes I go to Paralympic meets. But it's fun actually, because it is one of the greatest things to experience the effort of people with disability. They will make able-bodied people look small in terms of effort in what they do, and this was fascinating. And because I used to go to these meets and work the Paralympic meets, it was very easy to make a transition to going that JOA will say go to Olympics or go to the Commonwealth Games. But I think the relationship with the J-Trays was grounded in that experience with myself and Warren Blake in that disaster zone in Haiti at the time, when we worked tirelessly for 2 weeks, trying to save many lives there, because we didn't only do amputations and fractures. We did deliveries, emergency deliveries there, when many young people came in. They were pregnant at the time in the disaster zone. We had to do their deliveries. We had a lot of intra-abdominal problems, from appendicitis to intestinal obstruction to all sorts of conditions, heart problems, patients with heart failure, the whole gamut of medical things that were there. And they were exacerbated during the earthquake because of an increased stress response on the population caused by the earthquake. And so we had an intense 2 weeks that was just something to remember. And unfortunately, and somebody asked me if I'd go back to a disaster zone like that. I said no, because it is nice to help, but you don't want to experience that again. It is very, very difficult. And the recovery process from that takes a while, because when you come back, you're back in Jamaica, you're still smelling the smell, you're still seeing the faces, you're still inside the operating room in futile situations. You cannot help. There's no backup, there's no blood, and you watch the person pass. And those kind of things stay with you, and you remember it, and you're happy that you could help. But then if the occasion come again, you're going to be saying, no, I don't think I can do it again. But it was a very, very good experience. And that's where I'm saying it many times now, that's how the relationship with Dr. Warren Blake and I developed and lasted until now.
Right. You mentioned the Olympics. The Olympics, 2020 Olympics that took place in 2021. And that was a very trying time globally. And you were the lead going into Japan. And if I remember correctly, you had to go there well in advance to make sure that everything was intact and the way they're supposed to be. Tell us a little bit about that experience in Japan for the Olympic Games as the lead doctor.
Well, the International Olympic Committee has almost a perfect machinery that runs smoothly for most Olympics. And the preliminary work, I understood now, that started once the plans for the next Olympics started before the previous one has ended. And the meetings and the organization and development occurs long before the meeting starts. And I remember going to a preliminary workshop in Japan before the Olympics. That was a couple of months before the Olympics, in preparation for just preparing the medical team as to what the polyclinics will look like, what our facilities, and just familiarizing ourselves with what are some of the things that are going to be there, and to help the organizing committee to give your opinions on what you think might be necessary, or whatever the input is. But they already have their whole medical machinery well oiled and running. And that time was one of the most challenging times ever, because you will remember that this is a pandemic that hit us that did not occur for maybe 100 years prior. And we're now in a situation where we're under lockdown, air everywhere, and we're trying to have an Olympics. The question whether to cancel the Olympic was one question. Can we cancel the state, or should we go ahead? Now, the Olympic movement is a lot more than sports. Olympic movement unifies religion, cultures, ethnicity, and in our greatest moment of despair and challenge, something like a unifying force like the Olympics bring people together under one umbrella, notwithstanding race, religion, creed, whatever. And the movement thought that based on what this will do for the world at this point, at this time when we're having this pandemic, that they ought to go along with the Olympics if and only if this Olympic can happen in a safe environment. And that's the thing that the charter wanted to ensure by having these preliminary meetings. Can this Olympic be safe can we prevent athletes who are fit and well from going to an Olympic and picking up the virus? Can we do it safely? And when they did their preliminary runs of this thing, looking at safe zones and how understanding the disease and understanding how we're going to test it every day, they agreed that it should go on. And we thank God that we went to the Olympics. Olympics happened, and it was as smooth as it was planned. It was challenging because this is one Olympic where we did not have many spectators. As a matter of fact, we didn't have any. But the TV audience was massive. And I think we even argued that, man, this Olympic may have made more money than if you had people in the stands. Because of the TV audience was just overwhelming. But when we got there, we realized that we knew from before we got there, and I had to present to the Jamaica Olympic Association what are the measures, what are the strategies that are in place to keep our Jamaican athletes and all athletes safe during this Olympics. And I presented it, and I presented the whole algorithm of what expected of us. We needed to be tested 2 weeks prior to leaving Jamaica. Every single person, athlete, once you're going there, you have to be tested 2 weeks prior. Then 2 days later, before you leave, you have to be tested again. Now, anything that if you didn't pass these tests, you couldn't go. And that's what's one of the challenge with the team. We're wondering, are we going to have a team? Are we going to have even a management team? How are we going to change people around if we get positive testing? We have to eliminate some people or eliminate some athletes. But the process itself went well because we here in Jamaica did our due diligence when it comes on to COVID. We were, for the most part, obedient to the rules. Wear a mask, shut down the country. We were confined to our homes, as we said. Everybody stay home and everybody limit contact. We did really well, and those results were borne out in these tests that we did right up to the Olympics, where we didn't have many positive tests going in, and we didn't have to change the nature or the face of the team or the structure of the team much because of positive tests. We had a few challenges. Yes, we had a few challenges, but we still were able to not have one single positive test for all the athletes that went to the Olympics. And we were able to we had to do a COVID test every morning in Japan and in the evening in Japan. And before the morning, all those results had to be read. We had to ensure that all those results, we knew what they were. If there was a suspicion, we had to go and find the athlete or find the administrator, quarantine and repeat the test and go again. So it was rigorous there, but we were able to do it and do it safely, and there were no casualties as a result of the Olympics.
Professor, could you unmute your mic? And could you ask a question, sir?
Well, it is the first in-depth look we have had in dealing with the Olympics during that time frame. Okay? I'm sure that it was taking place, but the fact that we are listening to how we dealt with it successfully, okay, is put I would say put feathers on our shoulders. Brother Dale, I'm looking at this as the man from Retrieve. Because you see, while he mentioned Cornwall College, and he mentioned Retrieve, But you see, when you go up in the forest, you don't see the trees. Because Retrieve, Brother Dale, is a standout place, by the Great Retrieve Mountain, Retrieve is one of the places in Jamaica that has some of the most exotic fruits in Jamaica. And a Rastafarian community down there that is second to none. Okay? So he's not coming from a poor background, Okay? I'm just telling you, okay? I mean, you have caves down there. I mean, Retrieve is one of those places in Jamaica that has more potential, for the future than the government recognize. So when he said Retrieve, my ears pricked up right away, like Retrieve. So now this is the man from Retrieve, and as much as I'd like to identify Cornwall College, I would like to make sure that Retrieve is standing right beside Cornwall College, because there are people in Retrieve right now who needs to recognize that this man went to school, this man came out of Retrieve, this man know what it was like to go pick up, get water at spring when pipe run, when pipe dry, because we went through that, and we do not want to forget where we come from, okay? Because we don't know where we're coming from, we could never know where we're going. Okay? So I really am really absorbing this life story. Because what we're getting is a clean documentary, Okay? That is what we're getting. And it's gonna resonate with our people. Okay?
Yes.
And a lot of us over here will understand, and some people understand, why we want to give so much back to our community. Okay? Because sometimes they don't understand, even the government doesn't understand why we love Jamaica so much. Okay? Because it molds us, make us strong. And yes, running, we had to run to school because when we get to school late, principal was there with the guava whip. Okay.
Yes.
And you know that.
Yes, and Professor, you speak about the community, and Dr. Cox somehow, with all his lecturing and operating and traveling with the Jamaica team to perhaps a minimum somewhere around 15 different global meets, throughout his life here, helping needy children and helping children to be grounded, Dr. Cox. Mm-hmm. And I know you have a big hand in at least 2 high schools and not just limited to one sport. Could you share with us what you do, especially in your community in Savannah Lamar and other communities, dealing with the youngsters? Could you share with us that?
Yeah. Well, my interest in sport from I was at Cornwall, because I was a track athlete at Cornwall, running the 400 meters, 800 meters. Not to any great success, but I still love the sport during my professional years, and follow the sport all the way through. And at every chance I get to support athletes medically, from my background as a medical person, I used to go to Gibson Relays, Champs, Boys and Girls Championships. Every meet that was there, I would go there and help as a medical person. And so I see the benefits of any sport. And I believe in the tenets of learning that spoke about the cognitive part of development, as well as the movement part or the artistic part of the brain, that when developed in unison or together, you create a more superior individual. And long ago, the charter of schools in the UK, that's what they believed in and still do believe in. And that's why the physical education was much of an important part of the curriculum at all schools. the way we look at physical education should be just as much as we look at um, the the arithmetic or English or so on, developing those skills. Same way we should develop the movement or the physical part of our being. And it's not hard to understand why that's important because we're beings made mostly of muscles. There's a reason why we're made mostly of skeletal muscles. Because those skeletal muscles are for movement. And that's what the Lord had intended for us, that we move. So if we're not moving, something is wrong. And so I believe that we should move and we should be able to think. And if we do both of them, we'll be a superior, not superior, but a better individual. And so when I came to Westmoreland with my kids were small when we moved here because when I finished residency, I spent a lot of time in Kingston after Cornwall and went to university there, did a first degree and then did medicine. And started my family in Kingston, but then moved to Westmoreland when my kids were only 5 and 4 and 1. And came all the way to Westmoreland where the activities in Kingston for sports were alive, was like buzzing everywhere. And if you come to Westmoreland at the primary level, to some extent, in terms of looking at the Kingston versus the West, relatively down here we just had nothing. So when I came here, I was determined that listen, my kids are going to continue their physical development as well as their cognitive development here. And very early I teamed up with Aaron Lawrence. Aaron Lawrence, is a legend. And Aaron Lawrence was a goalkeeper, Jamaica World Cup goalkeeper, a legend for Reno Football Club. And he was here in Westmoreland when I came here, And I just met him by chance one day, and I said, Aaron, boy, I need to start a football academy. And he was just so receptive because he'd never heard somebody come with those kind of things like that. And so we got a whole bunch of kids late in 2012. And these were kids who were like 3, 4. And we just would come every Saturday morning and we would play some football and would mark the field out and would come to the field and would, after we did a little workout, we would have some water and drink some water and have some drink, and sometimes we'd buy some KFC and we just have fun. And the years would go on until we, after about a year or so or 2 years, we started to get these little kids into competition. And they were from diverse schools. They were from Savlamar Primary, they were from Unity Primary, they were from New Horizon Preparatory School, they were from Paradise Prep and so on. And the long and short is that we molded these kids into an unbeatable force after a while. We had these kids together, and of course I was biased towards New Horizon, so a lot of them came to New Horizon Prep School with my sons right there. And then we had an unbeatable prep school team. We went to Montego Bay, we take on everybody. Cornwall Prep, Cornwall Primary, Barracks Road Primary. Every primary school would take on him, Bay would beat them. And then we went on to enter the National Prep School Football Competition and got all the way to the finals and the knockout competition, the Henriquez Cup. And yeah, we lost the finals to a very difficult final to Woolman's Prep 2-1. But it just showed that what we did for a number of years, from 2012 to 2017, 2018, 5-6 years which we spent, and we were almost unbeatable. When we went back to Kingston and played Kings of Kingston like Mono Prep and beat them 5-1 in a practice match, they were stunned. They were wondering, where are these guys from? But it was just through Aaron Lawrence. Every day we were having fun, we enjoyed. The kids needed to come out on a Saturday morning early and play some football and then go back home and do some schoolwork. But the fun thing about Westmoreland is that we have a lot of rivers. So we would play football and then we'd end up in the river and we'd have some drink and we'd have fun. And the kids were just doing that enjoying themselves for a number of years, and then all of a sudden they realize, okay, I can play football as well. And it's funny because when it comes to high school, for whatever reason, some of the kids went to Cornwall, some went to Manning School, and we eventually created some giants especially at Manning School, because Manning's got to the Costa Cup finals. They got to the semifinal twice too. And believe me, the majority of those kids were from the academy. Every one of them. And I was their team doctor. I'm Manning's team doctor, and I'm Cornwall College team doctor at the same time. So I used to it's funny because I go to a Cornwall match, and then tomorrow I have a Manning's match somewhere, or I have two on the same day. I'm like, man, why do I have two matches? But I used to juggle them. But then the kids know each other, and they were just having fun. And when Manning's got to the finals, it was just, it was something else. It was really, really good. And then my sons played for Cornwall. I remember Zachary played under 14 football. They won All Ireland under 14 championships. And then they were rocked back because of the COVID thing. Alex played under 14. He was also on that under 14 team. Alex went on to play Costa Cup for Cornwall. He was a center forward in his final year. Scored 8 goals and got them to the quarterfinals that year. And Alex was able to, just to show that he was able to play center forward for Cornwall all the last 3 years, and also made it straight into medical school from sixth form. He's now in his second year of medical school at Cornwall. And Dale, I must tell you that I did not know, and I don't know how this occurred, but Dante Escoffrey got into medical school as well. Dante Escoffrey is the captain of the under 14 team that won All Ireland. He also captained the Costa Cup team. And he's from that academy down here in Westmoreland that we started. Same academy. Went to the same prep school as my boys. And he's now in medical school. I think he wanted to take a year off. So he took the year off. So I think he's probably gonna matriculate this year. But
Dr. Cox, sorry, you mentioned Zachary and Alex. But Zachary, we need you to tell us a little bit more about Zachary and what he ended up doing, especially this year, because he made history this year. Well, last year into this year for this school year.
Yeah, but Zachary have always shown the prowess in prep school, because that prep school team, New Horizon Prep, never ever won anything. I've never ever gone to prep school championships. And we went there 4 years in a row. We didn't expect to do anything the first year because I think there were only 2 boys that performed. The second year we went there, we had a little more team, but the team went really well in their last year, in Zachary's last year. And in Zachary last year, class 1 at prep school, he won the prep school 100-meter gold medal. And that was the first medal the school was winning at prep school championships, and it was a gold medal. And just to say that Vaz Prep, Mona Prep, St. Peter and Paul, all of those schools in Kingston were shocked. They're wondering, what? Where is this boy from New Horizon Prep? Where is that even? But then he was working for years. So he won the gold medal in the 100-meter. He won the silver medal in 200 meters. And then the team New Horizon Prep won the biggest relay at prep school championship, which was a 4x200 meter finals on the last day. And they won the gold medal in fantastic style. When Zachary went to Cornwall, I mean, with a lot of potential, but I've always said that you have to manage your potential. And sometimes when you see a student have potential, you have to realize what else are they doing? Because they might not realize all their potential in one area, like in track and field or football, but that's because they have been putting some time on their academics as well. So if you put most of your time in academics, then you're going to get a lot of academic success, and then you may get not your best success at track and field. So that's what happened to Zachary now. And then Zachary was affected by the pandemic because the pandemic came in class 3, no champs that year, very little champs the year after, and then he was set back by a hamstring injury. But all in all, it's a good time because I said to him, well, what you need to do is ensure that you guys do your schoolwork. And during the pandemic, they worked, and I mean, they in Zachary's final year, he got 10 ones at CSEC, one city, and he ended up, of course, well, yes, he ended up as overall he got like 14. I think he has 14 ones and 16 subjects. And it's not a pressure event. It's just that he's been doing these subjects like 3 or 4 subjects before he got to grade 11. And then in grade 11, he did got 10 ones. And it's a model that they did, both himself, Alex, Dante Escoffrey, my daughter, Dante's, we just, and for a lot of other boys at Mannings, all of them did the same thing. So you have boys who were from the what they call the ghetto areas in South, and I've seen boys there who they said couldn't do those things, and they went to Mannings, and by the time they got to grade 10, they had 4 or 5 subjects, and people asked them how comes, and I remember I called them during the pandemic. I said, guys, listen, this is a pandemic, and you're at home. Let's work. Let us make the best of the pandemic. Let's do some subjects. And they went to a class and did these subjects, and they by the time they were in grade 10, they had 4 or 5 subjects. So I remember this boy named Abino Wallace from Mannings was one of the best midfielders there. I took them to the Costa Cup finals. They couldn't believe that he had 5 subjects before grade 11. and he made him feel so good. You look at him and he's exuding confidence. You cannot tell him anything because, I mean, they have this thing in Westmoreland where they will say that if you play football, you're not going to do well academically. But he was able to say, listen, I play football and I have 5 subjects and I haven't even done my final exam. I haven't even sit my subjects in grade 11 yet. Well, that's because of the work we did behind the scenes while we're having a football club, while we're having an academy. We're also telling the boys that, listen, you need to do, because apart from having the football academy, they mentioned that 1 hour before they started training on Saturday morning, there was a teacher who came in and helped them to go to do some conversational Spanish. Also talk Spanish and have a fun learning a new language and so on. And they carried that through and they did Spanish and they did well. And so that work behind the scene during the pandemic made a lot of these boys really, really well set for their universities. A lot of them now are in the States doing, and at University of West Indies, doing their courses that they have chosen.
Okay, so Dr. Cox, we've spoke about making history, and Zachary made history as the first Jamaican to get a full track and field scholarship to attend Boston University for the 2021 school year. And just, I know you feel good and it's great for your family, but share with us just how well you feel, how good you feel.
Right, 2025.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful because you only as supporters and coaches or parents, you know the long nights and the hard road and the difficult training. And I remember, Zachary trained at a number of places at Cornwall. Sometimes because he lived down here in Petersfield, Westmoreland, he would train by the field at Petersfield High School because he was closer to home. And the field there is not great, but I can tell you, that's the same field that produced a world champion in Antonio Watson that went to Petersfield High School. Zachary and Antonio, they're friends, and because they're pretty much in the same, not the same year, because Antonio is like 4 years ahead of Zachary, but they were used to train on the same field together. Bumpy track, grass, not cut properly, lots of goats on it, lots of obstacles. We end up turning on a bright light or a car light in the night in order to complete the training. And I remember just being up there every night with him and the coach in the dark. And then I have my patients waiting, 7:30 the night they're waiting, but I have to wait until he finishes the training. But it's just those kind of difficulty. Okay? You finish school, you have to hop on a taxi, get a taxi, travel down to Petersfield, get yourself ready and train. And then you have to compose yourself again, do your homework, and then you have to go to bed and get up early in the morning and back to Cornwall in the morning. So it's not easy, but it just takes some coordination, some time management. And to see that he was in his final year, he was always having the potential. But as I said, it depends on where you spend your time. If you want to get 10 ones, you can't be running 10-1. If you want to get 10 ones at CSEC, you cannot run 10-1 in the 100-meter at champs. It's just not possible. So you find that Zachary got 10 ones at CSEC, but you know that he was always there to do well at champs, but because of where the energy was placed. And of course, there are many other things as well. That I have a famous video by when he was running the semifinals at champs, and one of the committees was saying, with everybody else in the race, they were focusing on Zachary, and he was saying he wanted to see Zachary make the national team so badly because he was saying he has so much potential. He's been here all the time, and I'm saying, yeah, I pity he wouldn't know that. As I said, if you get 10 ones at CSEC, it's hard to get 10-1 to run 10-1 on the field. And that's the part that he wasn't linking up well in his commentary. And when Zachary won the semifinal heat, he was saying, "So what I'm telling you, I know it. I told you guys." And he was just keep on going and going and going at it. But it's just that potential. And when they saw him, this coach from Boston University. Now, Boston University don't first of all, their academic standards are so very high. And so you'll never, well, let's say you'll never, but it's hard to find, as I said, 10 ones and running 10-1. So you find that Boston University look at the academics first and decide whether or not you can cope, and then they will ask you to come based on your performance. And so they asked him to accept a scholarship there, and he did. And he was the first Jamaican who have had that kind of a full scholarship from Boston University. And this year is his first year. He's still into his first year, and he's really making them proud because he has won. I mean, he has defeated in their regionals. He's a 200-meter champion as a freshman. And that is kind of unheard of because he defeated a guy who had won the 200 meters for the last 2 years. There's a guy from the Navy who was coming back as defending champion this year, and Zachary beat him in the finals. So they, I mean, he won rookie of the. He's a rookie of the year, for that regional championships, and I think he has gone up now to, I don't remember number what. But he's the second all-time 100-meter fast time at Boston University by running 10.36 about 2 weeks ago. And he's up to, I mean, he's the top 10 in all his sprints. I think he's number 9 in the 400. He's number, I don't know if it's 6th or 4th indoors in the 200. And then he's number 2 all time for the 100 meters at Boston University. And I think the coach was, well, I think they were trying to see if they could get to number one because he wanted to run 10-1 this year, but I'm not so sure. Um, well, we'll see what happens because they still have the outdoor season to go.
Well, Dr. Cox, as we are coming closer to the close of this interview, riveting, riveting. And I just want to ask you something. Do you ever play chess?
Yes, if you ever look at my list of hobbies, chess is one of them.
Okay.
And I played chess for Cornwall College. I learned chess at Cornwall. Um, um, there was a teacher who not introduced us to chess, but he used to get us into tournaments, in the inter-secondary schools, chess competition. And Mr. Chin was a religious education teacher. But the team at Cornwall, the chess had gotten to fanatical levels at Cornwall after a while. How it happened, we don't know, but after a while, everybody was playing chess. Every corner of the school, there was a chessboard being played. There was blitz chess being played, which was 5 minutes. The game was crazy. Sounded like dominoes at one point, the way how the game was being played. And Cornwall got some really good players at the time. Unfortunately, we made it to three at the time Workers' Bank finals. And all three times we lost the Campion High School. And Cornwall College had the national junior chess champion in a guy called Richard Horton at the time. Our head boy at the time played chess, Stephen Lee. Jerome Lin Su, who is now a laparoscopic surgeon in Philadelphia, he played for the team. Peter Johnson used to play for the team as well. Peter is a doctor, he's a radiologist in Kingston. So you had Stephen Lee, Richard Horton, myself, Jerome Lins, that play, and a guy named Michael Watson. Michael Watson was he went to Trinidad, and he's not the late Michael Watson because he died. He did engineering in Trinidad. But we had a very, very, very good chess team. Even recently, I was invited to the national championships in chess. Because they called me up and asked me if I could play the national senior championships. And I said, okay, I'll just play for fun. But it's good because even our Warren Elliott, one of the administrators and a FIDE master, a FIDE master in chess, our international master now, he went to Cornwall College and I taught him chess. And he's one of the directors of chess in Kingston now. So he thought it prudent to bring back some of us who used to play chess so many years ago and invite us to national seniors a couple of months ago. But yeah, chess is one of my passion. I wish I had the time to play it as I would love to, but I don't have the time. But as if I could if I get to play for fun at any time, I just play.
Right. Unfortunately, he died at a young age. But Cornwall also produced a national chess champion in Orin Singh. He died very tragically at a young age.
Smoke, a fire, yes.
Yes, so he's one of the great Cornwallians and in chess. But with that,
Cornwall won the first. Just to quickly mention, Cornwall won the first. Cornwall during that time, our time, won the first Orrington City trophy for schools. First one that he did was we won it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was excellent. Yes.
And just on a lighter note, Dr. Cox, someone told me, in those Kung Fu movies, sometimes you see the Kung Fu master blindfolded and fighting someone. So I was told that you used to blindfold yourself and play chess. Is that true? Any truth to that?
Yes, because and it may seem like something like like some genius of a thing, but it's not actually. It's a training tool in chess. You're blindfolded and you're because most of the work is in your mind. If you're gonna work the 13 to 10, 15 moves ahead on the board, it all have to be in your mind. So part of the training of chess players is to blindfold the chess. So you need to remember your position without seeing it. And the other tool is also is to play multiple boards at the same time. So if you really want to get good in chess, you have to line up 15 people and you are the only one playing all 15 of them at the same time. And you can do it at various times, you can increase the time. But blindfolded chess is a training tool and it's a fun tool as well because it's fun because if you're doing it and you're doing it quickly and people are watching, then it can be fun. Because if you make a wrong move, somebody's gonna say, no, that move cannot be made. So you don't have to go back and remember where is the piece until you either give up or you content or you remember. But you can't give up. If you give up, you lose.
Right. Well, Dr. Cox is amazing because someone who was in the seventh grade at the time remember you doing that, and that is what encouraged them and inspired them to take up chess.
Yes.
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 Professor?
It was
Well, let me say about Dr. Cox that I'm really intrigued by the breadth of categories that we covered, and I'm more, I guess, impressed with the sports development aspect that academy that you mentioned, and that's because Dale and I spent a lot of time on different sports panel, and one of the things that we're always talking about is development, sports development, that it should start from the primary school because it teaches the discipline and all the other things that leads to the later success. So you're looking back at all the people that were in the academy and you're talking about where they are now, okay,
right.
and how successful they are, in carrying forth the discipline, okay, that made them winners at an early age, and now they are taking it to the next, and they have taken it to the next level. So that rang quite a bell with me because I said we are always talking about development, and sometimes we are focused on maybe just cricket, for example. We're in that category because we are on the Cricket Show USA as panelists, and we're on different sports platforms together. But the sports that you actually identified and developed, okay, through your academy, just reminds us of how important it is that children, young children, are introduced to sports at an early age so that the training and the mental development that takes place. You said you're playing for fun. You had such a great time. And we speak about in the context that when children play together, then they do not fight each other. Okay? And so maybe we would look forward to having our government bringing sports central into their development. Just like you said, arithmetic, yes, is important, and all the other things you identified. But sports have a ripple effect. When you drop the stone in the pond, and the ripple starts, you don't know where those ripples are gonna end. It just goes to oblivion. And when one ripple hits against an obstacle, it creates a whole new set of ripples. And that is what you have brought to the platform this evening by your experience. And there are many people who are going to see things through your eyes. So I thank you so much for being able to put the time to have this documented on our platform, because it's going to be there for the foreseeable future. And that is something that Dale and I talk about when we talk about Dale planting mango trees down in Saint, down in this corner of the woods when he was a boy. And when he comes back, he see this great mango tree loaded with mangoes, and nobody know that he was the one who planted the mango tree.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah. And Professor, it is really amazing because you listen to Dr. Cox and he tells this story about Billy, the bus conductor. But I can
Yes.
tell you, Dr. Cox is not the bus conductor, but he makes sure that no boys go, no youth go without getting whatever is necessary to have them continue them, going to school. And boys or girls, regardless of which school they go to, Dr. Cox is the man, and he will not speak about it. And we can understand why, but I will say it. He helps the needy. No stone goes unturned where Dr. Cox is concerned. And you wonder where he gets the time to do it, because he lectures at the university, among other things. And Dr. Cox, I would be remiss if I don't allow you to just say what coaching certificates license do you hold?
Because I'm a more of a track and field person. I hold a level 1 and a level 2 World Athletics certified coaching certificate in the sprints. Well, the level 1 coaching certificate from World Athletics is an all-round certificate that allows you at the basic level to teach all the disciplines in track and field. So from sprints, long distance, middle distance, vertical, horizontal jumps, throws, etc. So the level 1 certificate allows you to at least be able to introduce an athlete to all that kind of track and field sport. Level 2 certificate now is more specific because it's now my certificates in the sprints and the hurdles. So I have a level 2 certification from World Athletics in sprints and hurdles. World Athletics, I think, they have changed it. So I think they have just one more level to go, which is an elite level 3. But as soon as the opportunity arises, I'll get there because I understand exactly how the transition to take place between a athlete who wants to run 10.8 and want to get to 10. So it's a lot more academic and it's a lot more an analysis to get there. Some of it occurs with just by like grandfathering or seeing what other coaches have done and just maybe. But if you do the course, you will be able to be more specific about individual athletes in their development. So it's just for fun for me, and I always say that at some point when I have more time, I'm really able to coach somebody.
Okay, and this is, Professor, just give me 5 more minutes, please, because we did not ask Dr. Cox about the impact of Melissa and how he himself responded and how did it affect him and his community.
Oh, Melissa was, I could just say one word, devastated. Physically, mentally, even spiritually, morally, the whole thing. It's just a devastated thing. I mean, you think you can. I've always said to my community that I think I'm more prepared than most people because I've been in a disaster zone. Though it's not I've been to a number of hurricanes. But I think being in Haiti for the earthquake, where that's on a different level, had prepared me a little bit more for this kind of disaster. We had not that kind of deaths like in Haiti, but certainly we had the morbidities of the injuries here, and that prepared me. The loss of our roof, the loss of hospital infrastructure, the loss of people's minds is more telling. desperation. I thought we would have sunk into a level of desperation that would turn into some kind of crazy violence here, but thank God it didn't, because we saw it almost happening when there was a scramble for gasoline and lighting, and the whole place was dark. Nobody could move anywhere, and there was a brief uptick in crime over the time, and that showed the authorities that had settled down. But the number of patients, the impact was the number of patients that will receive at the hospital that tripled on surgery. That would see every day with wounds and infections and worsening of their heart problems or diabetes or their diabetic foot, etc. That's what was the major issue. I think even more so, we responded robustly on high on adrenaline to help the patients, the people affected in the community. But then slowly, we healthcare workers started to fall apart as well, because we would go home and there's no roof, there's water, there's no house, there's no light for months upon months. And I don't think people understood what that was like. It was very, very difficult. I slept on a hospital floor for 2 months straight. Starting in the night before the hurricane, we were mandated, we had to be there because we couldn't afford, or we could not be there when the hurricane hit, and then the roads would be blocked and we couldn't get there. So we had to stay there. And when the hurricane hit, we couldn't move. We had to see where we were. At one point, as I said, desperation sank in because we're wondering, we didn't know how it would have felt to have money and can't buy anything and can't buy food. You couldn't buy food. If you didn't get it or had it somewhere or somebody give it to you, you couldn't buy it. There was nowhere to, it felt weird. You couldn't go to a shop and buy anything. There was no shop opening. And that feeling is one of the most strangest feelings you could ever feel. It's helplessness, almost like somebody tie your hands. Somebody has to feed you now. Where is the food? You know what I mean? We get up every morning, always joke about it. Say, what are we going to eat today? I wonder where we're getting food from today. That's how we always joke about it. Because the supermarkets were closed in the first week or two. Nothing was open. And we had stores initially, but then rapidly started to run out because there were lots of people who come in and say they want food. And if you have food, you have to give it to them and say, let's give it. And then you start to run out of it, and we just can't move around now because you wanted some gas to even drive up the road, because most of the roads were blocked anyway, but you wanted to gas anyway, and it was difficult to get it. For those who had generators, there was a scramble for gas, and there was no gas coming into Westmoreland because the roads were blocked. And for a while, it was desperation and real depression. Real depression, and it's still up to now. If you drive around Westmoreland, there's so many houses without roofs. Most of the roofs have loot falling on them, and people are just getting back to putting on some of their roofs. It took me 7 days after the hurricane hit to get to my father's house. That was completely destroyed, and then you have to deal with all of those at the same time while you're having a huge load at the hospital. Because I'm the only general surgeon at Sablamar Hospital, and I had to be there day in, day out. I sleep there, I eat there, I bathe there, and slowly, without external communication, because there was no internet service, you find yourself starting to drift and wonder, what's happening to me? You wonder, you feel real funny, but the plight of the patients kept you alive. In the quiet moments, you start to realize that you're affected. When the psychiatrist eventually got to SAP from Kingston, when those psychiatrists came and those mental health officers, a lot of them said they have never seen such weight and heaviness and depression amongst a medical team. And there were lots of doctors quarters at Sablamar, they lost their roof, and most of the doctors were living in in the doctor's lounge in a tight space, and everybody was getting depressed. And everybody was, but we just, we had resilience because doctors are taught to be resilient. But there's a fallacy also to resilience. So we think we're resilient at some point, but there's a break happening. And so, through thinking that we must carry on, we sometimes hurt ourselves, and we hurt ourselves a lot during the hurricane. Unavoidably, because we couldn't give up on the patients. But that was the effect. The effect was physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. The effects was devastating, and it is, we're starting to heal, but it's gonna still take some time for us to get back to work.
Okay, Dr. Cox, I can't thank you enough, but thank you again. And Professor, Sir Professor, the final words to you now as we close off this episode. And thank you very much, Dr. Cox.
Well, Dr. Cox, I can say that this is one of our priceless, I don't want to call it an interview, I'd rather call it a documentary, because you have answered so many questions, so many unasked questions that were never answered. Just the last 5-10 minutes expressing the impact that was on the staff, the medical staff dealing with that, had the weight of the country on their shoulders, had the weight of the community on their shoulders. That was never discussed before. We have never heard this type of response to the situation that was taking place after Melissa went through. We heard a lot of different things. We watched them in Parliament fighting over ridiculous things, while you were sleeping in hospitals on floors trying to take care of our community. And I'll tell you, that's there many of us in the diaspora who will feel encouraged, okay, listening to you and understand why we have to keep on doing the things that we do, because we don't see everything, but through your eyes we get a chance to take a good look at what we and what our community across the world and what other people across the world were addressing, even as they never saw what was taking place on the ground. I thank you so much for bringing this out, Brother Dale. I thank you for the last 5 minutes that you were able to get this out, because again, we talk about where Dr. Cox is coming from. And from the very beginning, yes, he grew up in a certain place. It was not easy. Yes, we ran because time was always on our shoulders trying to get things done. But you ran a good race. And thank you so much. I would just like you to identify the other members of your family. I know Zach is well out there, well recognized, good. But I wouldn't, for the sake of history, I would like other members of your family to be identified. And maybe some of the people who are sleeping with you on the floors of the hospital while they're almost without roof, that they also are identified on this platform.
Well, my family, my wife, Alicia Cox, and my daughter, Leah Cox, they knew that I wasn't going to be around for the hurricane, so they had to leave this house and went to Montego Bay. My son Alexander Cox. He's in medical school, second year. He was at university when the hurricane came. So he stayed there because we thought it was the best place for him to be. And Zachary was already in Boston at the time. But we have a strong team at the hospital. And from a surgical point of view, I head the surgical team, but we have Dr. Arlon Reed is there, Dr. Lori McIntosh, Dr. Sharon Josie, um, um, Dr. Isimba, uh, Dr. Russell. We are quite a huge team, but we have to still give a lot of thanks to the hospital administration, starting with our CEO, Ron Grant. He's a Cornell College old boy. It's funny because Ron Grant and I started Cornell at the same time. And he just came to the hospital last year as the CEO. But I've been at the hospital for the last 15 years, but he's just came back as the CEO. I mean, he was at the hospital so before in different capacity, but he, was moving around hospitals. So we have to give thanks to those people that helped us through the hurricane. And yeah, we got significant help from the Ministry of Health, the region, Western Regional Health Authority, that continues to play a major role in the rehabilitation of our health sector and the Ministry of Health. And we just hope that on a broader basis, that all our partner organizations abroad in the diaspora, those who help from different countries and different health organizations like the PAHO. I know that PAHO came down, and I must again talk about Marian Olap-Lucas, who had championed the cause to Haiti and was back again championing a cause again after the hurricane. So we give thanks to all of those who continue to rehabilitate and to rebuild our hospital. As we speak, we're still rebuilding our outpatient clinics. And a lot of the infrastructure was damaged at Sab Hospital.
Well, thank you again on behalf of our community, on behalf of our people who you serve so well. I don't think thanks is enough to express how we feel. This is a very moving, deep, conversation, because it will be shared, maybe in many bits and many pieces, but it will be shared. So again, I thank you for taking the time to update in our community about what we do, and maybe, as I said, the ripple effect is that it will encourage other persons that they don't give up. And I know you might not want to go back to a disaster zone, but I feel the same way about my first dog bite, so. I
That's
can't
true.
beat it.
So once bitten, twice shy. Huh?
Once bitten, twice shy. So, thank you so much, Dr. Cox. Thank you so
Yes, guys,
much.
thank you very much for having me on this program. I enjoyed, just talking about a little bit about, what I do.
Thank you.